edge of your mat and come up on your toes, and we're just going to walk back and forth on the mat a little bit. Today we're strengthening our feet. We are strengthening our ankles. And we are strengthening our calves. We're working on the whole feet, lower leg connection. Come back down. This time let's walk on our heels. Just going back and forth on your mat. It's going to feel really, really awkward. We spend a lot of time cramming our feet into shoes, squishing our toes together, and they get pretty lazy. Our feet get pretty lazy. And this time we're going to come on the outer edge of our feet, and we are also just going to walk back and forth on the mat. So our feet get really, really lazy, which is sometimes why we roll ankles when we're running, especially when we're running on trails. Now let's turn and walk on the inside of our feet. And this practice today is going to help strengthen everything in your lower leg. Like I said, do it a few times a week. It can help prevent some foot injuries. But if you feel pain, stop and seek medical advice. You should never feel pain when you're doing yoga. You come to the top of your mat. I'm going to face the camera so you can see what I'm doing. And take your hands on your hips, and then just rock forward on the balls of your feet and back on your heels. Go back and forth a few times. Come to stillness, and then rock side to side. Come to stillness. I want you to think about pressing into your big toe, pressing into your pinky toe at the same time, and pressing into your heel, so you have a nice, firm grounding in your feet. Then really activate your legs without locking out those knees. I want you to take one hand to your belly, one hand to your lower back, and then start pressing down on your lower back and drawing your abs in. You should notice your spine gets a lot taller. Let your arms come down by your sides, palms forward. Let your shoulders come back away from your ears. Make sure they're not up like this. Take a deep breath in. Tadasana, mountain pose. Notice how stable you feel. Notice how grounded you feel. I want you to think about that. Think about that grounding in of your feet. I'm going to turn back to face the top of my mat. Take your hands to your hips and your feet slightly wider than hip width apart. And take a big step back with one foot. You may need to readjust where that front foot is. Think about straightening that back leg, activating it without locking the knee. And really think about pressing your heel back to the edge of your mat. And we're not slumping over the front of our knee. We're standing up nice and tall. And notice where your knee is, whether or not it's coming in, going out. You want it straight over your heel. And lastly, notice where your toes are. You want your knee back from your toes, and you want your toes straightened, pointing straight forward. And then just begin to bend that back knee and straighten without locking out. And bend, straighten, bend, straighten. A couple more times. And then stay bent. And let's lunge down and up, down and up, and down. And take a big step forward. Pause. And then another big step back with the other foot. Once again, really thinking about activating that back leg, but not locking out your knee, pushing that heel back towards the back of your mat, using your abs to keep your spine straight. And then let's bend that back knee, straighten. A few more times. Just stretching out our calves. Keep it bent. Down towards your mat and away. Inhale down. Exhale up. Inhale down. Big step forward. Pause. See how you feel. Notice if you see any sides, any differences side to side. Take a smaller step back, keeping both legs straight. Make sure you square your hips to the front of your mat. Inhale, lengthen up. Exhale, come halfway down, using your abs to have a really nice flat back. Taking your hands behind you in reverse prayer if possible. If not, grab a hold of your elbows. Because why not stretch out our shoulders while we're here? Think about the top of your head moving towards the wall. Inhale. Step your back foot forward, keeping your arms where they are, possibly changing the grip of your arms. Inhale. Slightly shorter step back. Square your hips to the front of your mat. Inhale, grow tall. Exhale, bend over that front leg, halfway, flat back. You're looking down at your mat, a little bit ahead of it. Really activating those legs without locking out your knees. Next inhale, step forward. Let your arms go. Take them back to your hips. We're going to move into chair pose. You can keep your feet hip width apart. Gives you a little bit more stability. Or you can bring them so that the big toes touch. Inhale, really lengthen up. Exhale. Sit back as if you're sitting into a chair. Notice where your knees are. Make sure they're not over your toes. The weight is in your heels. Bring your arms up so your biceps are by your ears. Inhale, up. Exhale. Sit back. Inhale, up. Exhale. Sit on back. Inhale up. Exhale back. Inhale up. This time I want you to come up onto your toes and see if you can slowly come back, keeping your knees behind your toes. Inhale up. Exhale down. Hands to hips. Let that go. Turn to face the wide side of your mat, taking really wide stance with your legs. Toes turn in. Heels turn out as much as I can. Inhale, lengthen up your spine. Exhale, fold forward. Taking your hands down to your mat. Pointing your head down towards the mat. Maybe taking your hands all the way down to the mat. And I want you to think about really pressing into the pinky side of your foot. Getting very grounded. Thinking about as if I had my hand right here and telling you to press that leg out towards that hand. Pressing out to both sides of the wall. A couple of deep breaths here. Take your hands to your hips. Inhale, come up halfway, pause. Exhale really slowly with a straight back, all the way up. Bring your feet back together. Inhale up. Exhale, fold forward. Come down to your knees on your mat. If your knees bother you, you can always pad them with a blanket. Take your hands to your hips. Take one leg out straight to your side, trying to press the sole of your foot right into your mat or the floor. Couple of breaths here. And then slowly begin to raise your toes back towards your leg. And if you're able to, reach down for your toes and pull them back towards your leg. Couple of deep breaths here. Let that go. Bend your knee. Bring your knee back to meet the other. Pause. Straighten out the other leg. Hips are facing the wide end of your mat. And pressing into your foot. And then peeling those toes up off the mat. And reaching down for them, if you can. A nice side body stretch. And stretching your toes back towards your leg. Let that go. Bend your knee. Come on down to all fours. You want to be facing a wall. If you're not facing a wall at this time, you might want to pause the video and go ahead and make sure that you're close to a wall. Curl your back toes under. Slowly walk your hands toward your legs and just pause. We're stretching out the bottoms of our feet, the plantar fascia, that part that gives so many runners so much trouble. And this might be enough stretch for you. If it's not, you can take your hands onto your leg and very slowly sit your butt back on your heels. The nice straight spine. Breathing in and out. This is a very uncomfortable stretch, but it really works. If there's pain, again, don't come this far into the pose. But breathe very deeply in. Couple more deep breaths. And slowly walk your hands back down towards the mat. Take your feet out flat on the mat behind you. And again, walk your hands toward your legs and sit back on your heels. Making sure your spine is nice and tall. Your shoulders are relaxed. And take a few deep breaths here. Some of these stretches are very intense. So go to the point where you're able to and make sure that you're never ever in pain. And if you'd like to deepen the stretch a little bit, take your hands out behind you. Pause. And slowly begin to bend your elbows, letting your knees come up off the mat. If you're really, really flexible, you can bring your elbows all the way down to the mat. I am not that flexible. A couple more deep breaths. Slowly straighten your elbows. Take your feet out towards the side. I want you to bring your feet to the wall, pressing into the wall. You may need to scoot yourself a little closer, going into Savasana, into corpse pose, but we're going to have our feet on the wall. In my case, I have a radiator right there, and it feels really, really nice. Let your feet fall open, as they normally would, but keep them pressed against the wall. Close your eyes. Turn your hands up towards the ceiling. Maybe scoot your shoulders down a little bit. Relax your forehead. Relax your eyes. Soften your jaw. Let your shoulders melt down into your mat. Relax your arms. Slowly let every single finger relax. Relax your chest and your stomach. Feel your hips and your glutes supported by the mat and the earth. Feel free to stay in Savasana for as long as you're able to. But for now, we're going to come out by wiggling our fingers and our toes, and then rotating our wrists and our ankles one way, and rotating the other way. Gently pull in one knee towards your chest, and then the other. Keeping your eyes closed. Well, onto one side, cradling your head on your arm. Take a few breaths here. Keeping your eyes closed, press into your hand. Press yourself up into an easy seated position. I want you to take one hand towards your heart and then place the other hand on top of it. Feel your heart beating beneath your hands. Our bodies are doing so much work for us every day. We never even have to think about it. Our lungs take in oxygen and expel old air. Our heart beats. Our blood circulates. Our bodies work really, really hard for us. I want to thank you for joining me today to show our bodies a little love, to show our feet a lot of love. If you found this practice to be useful, I would love it if you would give me a like. And if you want to know when new videos are released to this channel, click the subscribe button and make sure to click on the bell. Take the palms of your hands together at your heart and slightly bow your head. Big breath in and let that go. Another big breath in. Let it go through your mouth. Slowly open your eyes, taking in your mat, taking in the room. Raise your head. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. I hope that your feet are feeling loved and that you can walk out feeling like your feet are relaxed and strengthened.